The median household in the US now sits at a net worth of about $193,000. That sounds decent, until you realize that for anyone under 35, that number plummets to below $40,000. To put that in perspective, that is less than the sticker price of a base model Ford F-150. Meanwhile, you open Instagram. You see people your age posting business class seats to Tulum, closing on modern farmhouse upgrades, and driving cars worth more than your entire existence. And it doesn't just annoy you, it rewires your brain. If your income has climbed over the last few years, maybe you finally hit that six-figure mark where your anxiety hasn't gone down. Let me tell you something. This isn't about discipline, and it's not about motivation. It's about the metric you're using to decide if you're doing well. Because once you understand what being rich actually means in this system, you'll realize you've been playing the wrong game entirely. Today, I'm going to show you what rich actually looks like in America when you strip away the Instagram optics and just follow the raw data. I spend an unhealthy amount of time analyzing Federal Reserve wealth reports and distribution tables, so you don't have to. If you want more videos that translate boring money stats into real life strategy, hit subscribe and tap like. And while you're here, drop a comment with your age and your best guess of your net worth right now. No judgment, just data now. Let's reset the definition of rich, because most people are chasing the wrong scoreboard. When most people hear the word rich, they picture the extreme private jets, oceanfront mansions in Malibu, black SUVs waiting at the curb. That image is powerful, but it is also a trap because it quietly teaches you that wealth lives in a different universe, a place reserved for tech founders, lottery winners, and celebrities. But here's the uncomfortable truth: when you actually look at the numbers, real wealth shows up much earlier than that, or, depending on how you're living, much later than you expect. You might be standing next to a millionaire in line at Starbucks and not even know it. Or you might be envying someone who is technically broke. That gap exists because we are using the wrong definition. And until we fix that, every comparison you make is just pointing you in the wrong direction. So let me ask you something. Be honest. When you say you want to be rich, what do you actually mean? Do you mean looking successful from the outside? The Tesla, the renovated kitchen, the vacations that signal you made it? Or do you mean reaching a point where money stops taking up space in your head? Because those are not the same thing. One is about appearance. The other is about pressure. One is visible to your neighbors. The other only matters to you at 3 a.m. Most people never separate these two ideas. They assume a higher salary automatically buys peace of mind, and that assumption drives almost every expensive mistake they make. That is exactly how you can earn $200,000 a year and still feel just as fragile as you did when you made $50,000. Here's where the misunderstanding gets expensive. We are trained to read wealth viscerally. Let's look at a character we'll call high-income Henry. Henry has the look, an $80,000 SUV in the driveway, a $1.2 million home in a good school district, 2 weeks in Europe every summer. From the outside, Henry is winning. But run the math: that luxury car. It comes with a $1,200 monthly lease payment. That large home. It's a $7,000 mortgage once you add taxes and insurance. Throw in $2,500 a month for childcare, student loans, and keeping up appearances. And suddenly, a household earning $250,000 a year is saving almost nothing. The income is high, but the margin is razor thin. Meanwhile, let's look at wealthy Warren. Warren drives a 10-year-old Toyota. His house is modest, but he owns a chunk of it. His annual spending is boring. Warren's wealth doesn't show up on Instagram because he isn't trying to impress strangers. The mistake Henry makes is using appearance as a scoreboard. When you measure success by what you buy, you end up chasing a moving target. And that is why Henry thinks the solution to his stress is just earning more money. He doesn't realize the hole in his bucket is getting bigger. Let's walk up the income ladder the way most people mentally do it. The median US household income is now about $84,000 a year. After federal taxes, FICA, health premiums, and rent, that number evaporates. For many families, this covers survival, not progress. Move into the top 50%, and you are just treading water above that line at the top 25%. Household income hits roughly $150,000. This is where people start to feel like they've made it. You see a little savings, maybe a vacation. But here's the reality check. If you have 2 kids in daycare, that's $30,000 a year gone. Instantly, one corporate restructuring, and the whole deck of cards collapses. Now the top 10%, around $250,000 in household income. This is Henry's territory. The income feels impressive, but this is also where the golden handcuffs lock in. Larger mortgages, private school tuition. The expectation that you should be spending money at the top 5%, we're at $335,000. And at the top 1%, you need about $650,000 to $700,000 coming in every year. That sounds enormous. But even here, income alone is not a shield. I know people earning $700,000 who are technically broke because their lifestyle costs $695,000 to maintain. That is the trap. Each rung feels like safety. But if income is the only thing holding the structure together, the structure is fragile. This is the point where we have to change the conversation entirely. Income and wealth are not the same thing. Income is just the water flowing through the pipes. Wealth is the reservoir you build. Income measures what comes in this year. Wealth measures what remains if the faucet shuts off tomorrow. You can earn $500,000 and be one bad quarter away from panic, or you can earn $80,000 like Warren and have real staying power because your life doesn't depend on a direct deposit hitting on the 15th and the 30th. From here on out, we stop talking about what you earn. We start talking about what you own, because that is where the real divide begins. So let's define this. Net worth is simply asset minus liabilities. Add up your cash, your 401k, your home value, subtract your mortgage, your student loans, and that credit card balance you're trying to ignore. Whatever number is left is your true financial position. There is no ego in this number, no hustle culture, no lifestyle flex. It doesn't care if you drive a Porsche or a Prius. It only measures how much ground you have actually secured. And once you look at the real net worth distribution in America, things get uncomfortable very quickly. Here is the stat that usually catches people off guard. The median net worth of us households is about $193,000. That's the halfway point. But if you look at households under age 35, the floor drops out. The median net worth there is under $40,000. Let's be real about what that means. That is not a down payment on a house in any major city. Hell, that is barely the price of a mid-range sedan. The average new car in America now costs around $48,000. Think about that. For millions of young professionals, their entire financial existence is worth less than the rapidly depreciating metal sitting in their driveway. That isn't a personal failure. It's the baseline, and it sets the stage for how hard the climb actually is. Once you move past the median, the wealth ladder doesn't just go up. It stretches to crack the top 50%. You just need to beat that $193,000 median. That's not luxury. That's just having a pulse. The top 25% starts around $650,000 to $700,000. This is where Warren lives. Home equity, a solid 401k, the ability to absorb a car repair without putting it on Visa. It feels stable. Now look at the top 10%. The number jumps to $1.9 million. This is the tipping point. At this level, you have assets that generate their own gravity. Dividends, interest, rent, checks. The top 5%, $3.8 million, double the previous tier, and then the top 1%. To join this club, you need a net worth of $11 million to $13 million. Look at the gap. The jump from top 10% to top 1% isn't a step. It is a $10 million canyon. Most people miss this. They think wealth is linear. It's not. The higher you climb, the farther apart the rungs get. And if you try to jump that gap using the same strategy that got you out of student debt, you will fall. This is where most people's intuition breaks down. They assume moving up the wealth ladder is linear. You just earn a little more, save a little more, and repeat until you win. But the math doesn't behave that way. The jump from the median to the top 25% is a few $100,000. Hard, but you can grind your way there over a career. But the jump from the top 25% to the top 10%, that's over $1 million. And from the top 10% to the top 1%, that is a gap of nearly $10 million. That is not just a bigger step. It is a completely different scale. At that point, effort alone isn't enough. Budgeting harder doesn't bridge $10 million gaps. Asking for a raise won't do it either. The distance grows faster than your paycheck ever can. This is where people stall. They keep using strategies designed for smaller gaps and wonder why progress slows to a crawl. Because once the ladder stops being linear, the strategy has to change with it. Here's the warning most people never hear. The strategy that helps you save your first $50,000 will not get you to $5 million. When you are starting out, the game is defense. It's about cutting costs and protecting cash. But the habits that take you from $500,000 to $5 million are totally different. That game is offense. It's about leverage, tax, efficiency, and asset allocation. What works when you're protecting a few months of rent doesn't work when you're trying to build a machine that grows on its own. But most people, like our friend Henry, never change the game. They just try to play the old game harder. That is why climbing feels so exhausting. To understand why, you have to look at what life actually feels like at each level, not just what the bank account says. Let's break down the emotional reality of these tiers. Level 1 is survival. Net worth is 0 or negative. A $1,000 car repair isn't an inconvenience, it's a crisis. It goes straight on the credit card. Money equals stress. You aren't planning, you are reacting. Level 2 is comfort. Top 50%, top 25%. You have $50K to $100K tucked away. Rent is paid without panic. If you lose your job, it hurts, but it doesn't break you immediately. Money stops being an active threat. Level 3 is ATS-driven. Top 10%. This is the wealthy Warren zone. Net worth hits $1.50 to $2 million. Your investments are now doing real work. The dividends and growth cover a chunk of your life. Missing a paycheck is annoying, but not terrifying. Level 4 is self-sustaining. Top 5%, $3 to $5 million. At this level, a $120,000 lifestyle doesn't require you to clock in anymore. Work becomes optional. You don't work because you have to. You work because you want to. Level 5 is post-money. Top 1%, $10 million and up. Day-to-day spending barely registers. A $20,000 vacation decision doesn't require a family meeting. Money stops being about consumption and starts being about control, legacy, and impact. The mistake is assuming these levels feel like upgraded versions of the same life. They don't. Each one changes how you sleep at night. Here's the part that messes with everyone's head. A family worth $2 million and a family worth $20 million often live surprisingly similar lives. They live in the same nice suburbs, their kids go to the same private schools, they sit in the same first-class seats on Delta. From the outside, you would struggle to tell them apart. But internally, they are living in different realities. The $2 million family still checks balances. A 20% market drop feels personal. Big purchases trigger anxiety. They have a budget. The $20 million family has transcended most financial decision-making. A bad year in the market is just noise. The real difference isn't in what they buy. It's in their relationship with money. This is the trap for high-income Henry. He thinks earning more will endlessly upgrade his lifestyle. But at a certain point, wealth only upgrows your peace of mind. And if you keep chasing better cars and bigger houses, you stay stuck on the treadmill, running fast but going nowhere. Let's separate the two ideas once and for all. Rich is an income state. Wealthy is a balance sheet state. Rich is about how much money hits your account this month. Wealthy is about how long you survive if that money stops. You can be rich, earning $300,000 a year. But if you need every penny to maintain a $20,000 a month lifestyle, you are fragile, miss. 3 months of work and the panic sets in. On the other hand, someone earning $80,000 with $1.5 million in paid-off assets is bulletproof. Their life doesn't hinge on next Friday's direct deposit. Rich feels good in the moment. It's loud. It's visible. Wealth feels quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't need to be proven. And that distinction is the axis this entire conversation turns on. So how do the wealthy actually widen the gap? It isn't just about working harder. It's about efficiency. Once you look closely at the top tiers, you realize they aren't pointing their money at lifestyle uprate. They are pointing it at compounders, broad market, ETFs, private businesses, real estate that pays you to own it. And this is where high-income Henry gets crushed. Henry earns $400,000 a year from a W-2 job. He feels rich, but the IRS sees him as the easiest target in America. Federal tax, state tax, FICA. Before Henry buys a single thing, Uncle Sam has already taken $150,000. Wealthy Warren plays a different game. He structures his income through assets. He uses depreciation on real estate to offset gains. He uses tax-advantaged accounts like a Roth IRA or 401k to shield growth. Structuring isn't about loopholes, it's just math. And then there is leverage. Henry uses debt to buy depreciating toys, now boat, a car, a vacation on a credit card. That is bad debt. It drains you. Warren uses debt to buy assets. He takes a mortgage on a rental property where the tenant pays the interest. That is, good debt. It accelerates you. If you don't master these tools, asset, taxes, and leverage, you're running a race with a parachute attached to your back. This is where most people hit a wall. They master the skills that got them to level 2, comfort. And they assume those same moves will get them to level 4, freedom. But that is rarely how it works. If you are trying to save your first $50,000, this strategy is discipline. You budget. You cut costs. You skip the latte that works. But you cannot budget your way to $5 million. There aren't enough lattes in the world to skip. At a certain point, the bottleneck shifts from saving to growth. I see this all the time with high earners. They are saving aggressively, but they keep every dollar in a savings account or low-yield bonds because they are scared of risk. They are playing defense when they need to be playing offense, or they are business owners who know how to make money but have no idea how to keep it. They have a $1 million a year. Treat it as permanent income and spend it all. No buffers, no diversification. When the market turns, they don't just slide back a step. They fall off the ladder. You have to be willing to update your software. The secret that got you out of debt is not the secret that builds a dynasty. As you climb, you need to recognize that the definition of money itself is changing. At the bottom, money equals survival. Every dollar is a shield. It protects you from chaos. In the middle, money equals options. It gives you the power to say no to a toxic boss, no to a bad living situation. No to immediate panic, but at the top, around $3 million, $5 million, and beyond, money becomes abstract. It stops being about what you can buy and starts being about what you can control. Time, influence, legacy. The ultra-wealthy aren't thinking about purchasing power. They are thinking about generational velocity. How does this capital serve my great-grandchildren? This shift is why people with similar bank accounts can feel completely different. One is hoarding cash because they are still mentally in survival mode. The other is deploying capital because they understand the game has changed. So we arrive at the final choice, and it is a choice you have to make consciously. You can keep youping for operands, chase the higher salary, buy the bigger house, make sure everyone at the reunion knows you're doing well. That path gives you a dopamine hit today, but it keeps you on the treadmill forever. You're only as rich as your next paycheck, or you can openize for reality. You can choose the quieter path, fewer visible upraise, more margin, building a position that doesn't collapse if the market has a bad year or your industry gets disrupted. One path makes you look rich, the other makes you free. Most people never choose. They just drift into the default Henry lifestyle and wonder why the anxiety never leaves. The difference isn't intelligence. It isn't luck. It's simply deciding which scoreboard you are actually playing on now that you know the difference. Which one are you going to choose? Thanks for watching. If this shifted your perspective, subscribe so we can keep building real wealth together. See you in the next one.